Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, check, check.
Check, check, check.
Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out otheanthem.com. It's where you can find everything O The Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/OTheAnthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/OTheAnthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Cheek.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at O The Anthem on all your social networks. Back to the real news. So Roger Stone, you've heard us talk about him before. What was his position in the administration?
He wasn't really, I don't think he had an official position per se. I think he was more like Trump gadfly, if that makes any sense. Like the gadfly is the type of person who just sort of hangs around. He's in the ether of what's going on, but he's not necessarily an official part.
And a Republican hanger-on for his entire life.
Yeah.
Has a giant Nixon tattoo on his back, right?
Yeah, I like the John Oliver line of, it's too big and not big enough at the same time.
Yes, absolutely right. But so, as we were trying to perform it, you'll see him over here to my side if you don't know who he is. And you may not recognize this particular picture because he's not wearing, the blacked out dark shades that make him seem like some sort of insect that he would usually
his penguin
typically
look,
wear.
Yeah.
But
in a world full of Bond villains between Elon Musk and Roger Stone.
And the Hunger Games villain of Elon Musk's mother. Like, things are 2020's wild, man. It's wild.
We need a Batman.
Didn't Eminem play a Batman-esque character at some point? No, he was Robin.
Yeah.
To Dr. Dre's Batman.
Yeah.
That's
so we
right.
need to get Dr. Dre doing shit. That's where we come around on
Well,
this.
we should have started him 9 years ago because it's going to take forever at this point. Trump will be out of office no matter what. Back to the topic, Roger Stone. So the reason we're talking about him this week is not because he entered prison, which, by the way, should have been the news round about these times. We're talking about him because just as he was about to enter prison, President Trump saw fit to commute his entire sentence. Mm-hmm. And unlike General Flynn, who also was commuted, or I don't know if he was commuted or just... So there's a difference. Commutation means that you...
You're still guilty, but you don't do the jail, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember if Flynn was like
I don't think he was pardoned.
No,
or clemency, maybe?
Maybe clemency.
Yeah.
These all have very different meanings, but I think to Trump, it's just like, give him the thing.
Get him out of jail.
Yeah.
Give him the get out of jail free card.
And I think you put this super succinctly in our discussions ahead of time. So General Flynn took a deal.
Yeah.
They had him dead to rights on lying, perjuring himself because he basically gave two different pieces of testimony at different times.
Yeah.
So you've perjured yourself. And he admitted to that and then eventually was granted clemency or a pardon from Trump.
Yeah.
Roger Flynn pushed his
Roger
trial.
Stone.
Roger Stone.
Yeah.
Roger Stone pushed his trial to a jury.
Yeah.
And you said in our pre-show discussions, like
the oh-so-rare federal jury, too.
Which, by the way, imagine getting called for that. And you're just like, oh, this is easy. I'm not going to have it. Nope, 9-week trial for Roger Stone. Awesome. But he sat there. He was a good boy. He didn't name any names, and he let them tear him apart, knowing that if he did that, he would get a commutation from Trump.
Yeah.
And he made him sweat it out a little bit because the trial ended in the fall, and he was supposed to report for jail this time of year, or maybe early spring. Time has no meaning anymore. I can't remember when the trial ended.
I think he was sentenced recently, but it was one of those sentences that only rich people get, which is we're sentencing you to prison. Come sometime around July and we'll fit you in.
Turn yourself in sometime in the summer.
We're going to give you a quarter to get your finances in order before you have to go away to jail. Just let us know if July works for you. And
oh, what it must be like.
We'll get you in there Q3.
Listen, I am not one to say I'm not a beneficiary of white privilege, but not even we can claim that kind of white privilege. That's just a whole different level. But yeah, so it became time for him to turn himself in, and Trump made him sweat all the way to essentially when that time came, and then commuted his sentence. So now he will not have to serve a day. I think you're right in so much as he remains guilty,
right?
But he doesn't have to serve the time.
I think they're maybe in Barr's mind, because I think Bill Barr was against the idea of commuting a sentence at all.
Saw, but Chicago apparently had a CIA-style jail set up on the Northeast side.
3 years ago that National Defense Authorization Act thing happened.
It was. And 3 years ago I said, if we're not careful, the cops are going to set up secret jails where they're going to torture people and no constitutional protections. And Corey and everyone else, including the bitch that I was dating at the time, said, why are you being so crazy?
No,
this will never happen.
I was very upset about it at the time.
That's true, too.
I was very upset about it.
I needed a name. I couldn't just say the bitch that I was dating at the time. But no, and I said this allows them to set up secret jails. Like instead of being in Turkey where they're torturing people, they'll be here and torturing people. And people were like, "Listen, you went full tinfoil. Never go to full tinfoil." Is that Chicago set up a secret jail where they didn't book you. You didn't have a right to an attorney. They tortured people, and it all happened to American citizens.
Yeah.
And that was going on in the city of Chicago. The Chicago police were directly asked by the reporters from The Guardian, and they said, no jail like that exists. But if it did exist, it's authorized under the NDAA. And I'm like, now the Chicago PD is sounding like the FBI and the CIA? Like, no, we absolutely do not have forces in the area. But if they were in the area,
they'd be on
only
Monroe
be there,
Street.
only there because the president authorized it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, American citizens who say I'm a crackpot and I'm crazy and that the police state is not that big a deal, there are jails, and this is one that's been pointed out. That doesn't mean it's the only one that exists.
Yeah,
there are jails where police will take you against your will. They will put you in cuffs, but you are not arrested because no constitutional rights apply. That happens when you get arrested. You'll never go to a police precinct. They won't fingerprint you. They won't take your picture. They won't take your information. Nothing. What they will do is they will stick you in a room, and when they are ready, they will waterboard you, a version of waterboarding, which is that instead of doing the actual waterboarding, they put a towel across your face. In torturous waterboarding, generally, they don't use a towel. They tuck a towel in your mouth, which is a whole different thing. But anyway, they put the towel across your face, they waterboard you, they sleep deprive you until you admit to doing what you were doing. And they found 5 people. One guy got arrested with personal possession of pot. Something that, by the way, 150 miles away, maybe it's a stretch, 500 miles away, perfectly legal. Perfectly legal to own and buy it from a store. Mm-hmm. And he gets taken to this secret prison where they torture him for 6 or 7 days and then release him. And they say, if you ever say anything about this place, we'll fucking kill you. Or you can end up back in here for good. We can hold you as long as we want.
This week on the Oh the Anthem podcast, our prophetic abilities come back to haunt us again, and we talk about it when we talk about Portland, Oregon. We're also going to get into the deaths of John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. We're going to discuss RGB's cancer diagnosis, all the news about Trump, including the Goya stuff, unemployment, the Rose Garden press conference, all of that, Mary Trump's book. Larry Hogan is apparently going to run for president at some point because he's got a book coming out. And we talk about the Redskins sexual harassment scandal, which is breaking this week. That and a whole lot more coming up right now on the Oh the Anthem podcast. R.I.P. John Lewis. This is Corey, and this is the Oh the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 328 of the Oh the Anthem podcast, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA Studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us on your podcatcher of choice. The easiest way to get it, anchor.fm/Oh the Anthem. Go there, and then you can find it on Apple, you can find it on Google, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on everywhere.
And we welcome everybody who's watching us live right now all over the internet. Make sure that you participate. Just put a comment wherever your stream is, and we can put that comment right up on the screen here. Or you can join the Discord directly and be a weekly participant by becoming a member of the board.
Yeah, and if you were watching the intro video, you probably heard us talking about an episode we recorded on March 3rd, 2015. We were talking about the 2014 National Defense Authorization Act.
Yes.
And I'd like to start right there.
Okay.
And go right into Portland.
Let's go.
Because what is going on in Portland right now is the type of worst case scenario that Rob and I were discussing, looking like crazy people at the time. Looking like fucking insane people at the time in 2013 and 2014. As the two versions, to fill in people who don't necessarily know, the National Defense Authorization Act is something that passes every single year to authorize the budget of the everything that has to do with national defense, Army, Navy, Marines, so forth, the Homeland Security, border security, all these different assets which are underneath of national security. So every single year it's passed, and every single year there's some sort of lobbyist compelled piece of new law that becomes part of how the government works.
The pork.
Yeah, and in 2013 and 2014 specifically, the amount of lobbyist-controlled ideals that were coming through and were not being stopped, and were being propelled by Democrats mostly, was horrifying and disgusting. And both Rob and I have I feel like you and I have the same sort of thing about, like, when somebody goes like, oh man, I just wish we could go back to Obama, and then we immediately have flashbacks to, you don't even remember this shit, you don't even remember the worst things, because like, much like everybody, I like Obama. Like, I think, like, I have a personal fondness for the man, I think that I don't feel like he's some evil demon that he's being portrayed as, but at the same time, you can't not drone strike villages full of people and massively increase the capability of the Patriot Act at a time where you're saying that you're getting rid of it, and instilling into law the ability for the federal government to work as its own police force.
Yeah.
And without any kind of due process, eliminate people who are perceived to be terrorist threats against the United States. That is a very far cry from everything that this government was founded on from the very beginning about how people are supposed to be treated for infractions against law. And
don't forget, also Obama said he was going to wrap up the militarization of local police. Didn't do that. Expanded the program of selling military arms to local police. He was going to shut down Guantanamo Bay, not the military base, excuse me, but the prison. Didn't do that. Was going to end the war in Afghanistan. Didn't do that. Was going to end the war in Iraq. Didn't do that. Did raise our value amongst allies worldwide. Did bomb brown children using drones. Now, the benefit, we don't have people who are mentally scarred by being on the ground in a different place, or a pilot dropping a bomb and turning around like as he goes to pass over the damage and realizing like, oh wait, that wasn't a military objective, that was a wedding.
Or that was a school.
Yeah. And so
or any number of the things that were constant sources of drone strikes to get one person at the expense of 200 people.
And there are drone pilots, but the weapons fire. So there's a pilot who's piloting the drone. He hits the fire button when he's authorized. Nothing about the targeting is done by him. It's all done by satellite from whoever is picking the target. He just pulls the trigger. And that is the next step away, where you get to say, like, I don't know what we hit. I fired 3 times, 3 Hellfires. They traveled, up to 200 miles and landed on something.
Yeah.
I don't get to see the report. And what they would often do is have 2 drones in the area. One would circle the target. One would fire from far away.
Yeah.
And then that way you would not have to know what it is you hit when the guy in the drone overhead sees that it's a wedding being blown up. So we did all those things.
The point of bringing this up right at the top is to first give you the clearest scope of the subject I feel I can give you, which is this is not just a Trump deciding to go rogue thing.
No.
It's certainly a bigger step than anyone would have anticipated so quickly. But to think that it was out of the realm of possibility is you're not paying attention if you think this is outside of the realm of possibility.
I believe part of our discussion during that time was, listen,
I don't think Obama's going to do it, but the next person could really fucking ruin people.
There's a lot of tools that maybe I trust Obama with, because he would never use them out of place.
Yeah.
Now, would he use them to force everyone inside when, I don't know, there's a pandemic on and I can't get people out of bars and restaurants or to wear masks? Maybe. And maybe that would be a good use of the power. But when you create a power for the federal government, you don't know who's going to take it next.
Yeah.
And in fact, up until Election Day 2016, we were sure it was going to be Hillary Clinton, which, by the way, was scary enough, because I think that she is a person who's capable of doing more with it. But then we got a completely unstable person.
Yeah.
And it goes back to everything that's ever been done. I mean, like, when someone put 27-inch guns on a ship for the first time, 27 millimeter guns on that ship for the first time. Basically, that was King George I, who was relatively sane, not looking for warfare. Everything's fine. But once you do that, then when King George III or the IV comes along, who is years and generations of inbreeding in and does crazy things like, oh, they don't want to take our ships in for trade. Let's just bombard this port on the south of France for no reason. Well, now he's got 27-inch guns, which are, in the era, able to do unspoken of before destruction.
Yeah.
When you build a nuclear weapon and you trust Franklin Roosevelt with it, because he's the guy who's, sitting at your fireside every week telling you how things are going to be okay, that's great. But then you give that weapon to Richard Nixon. And I say Nixon because, ironically, most of you were like, oh, my God, I trust Nixon with nukes more than I do many of the presidents in the 20th century, because that's a guy who knows brinksmanship. He knows how to play the hand without actually playing the hand of shooting one.
Nixon, despite his numerous faults, of which we could go on forever, he was truly brilliant when it came to seeing the whole chessboard of global interconnectivity. he like unlike anybody else who had ever lived, he had the ability to see the world from afar, like unlike anybody else.
And
He had awful intentions with what he was going to do with that knowledge, but it doesn't change the fact that
well, I don't know if that's true. Internationally, he probably had the best intentions, but what he wanted to do was to consolidate power at home and essentially be a king. In his own country.
there's a dual-sidedness to like trilateral diplomacy,
Yes.
which is happening where he's trying to basically have Asian countries fight against each other, and the
Yes.
U.S. constantly being the person who's like, oh, that's fucked up what they did. Oh, that's fucked up what they did, and just play them until there's one true superpower, and then aim your focus at that.
Or keep them all so weak fighting each other that the U.S. can just basically do what we want.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
there's
that's
that
fantastic.
part too. Yeah.
But you build the nuclear weapons, you trust Roosevelt with them, then, you get guys like Nixon who are good statesmen. You get guys like Jimmy Carter who probably would never have fired it even if we were directly under attack by the Soviets, because killing that many people is unconscionable. And then sometimes they end up in the hands of Donald Trump, a guy who is unstable on the best of days. And again, we talked about this, not that we're that psychic. I mean, we are. But 4 years ago in 2016, we said, oh, Trump is elected. It's weird that his first question was, how do I fire nuclear weapons?
Yeah.
Not really the first thing you asked. Now, Clinton jokingly said that the first question he asked was about Area 51. Turns out it wasn't, but he did ask early in his campaign or early in his presidency. Mm-hmm. But Donald Trump legitimately asked how to fire nuclear weapons as the first thing he asked the Joint Chiefs.
Well, I mean, you never know. We got to be prepared.
Sure.
He has to
Yes.
know. I mean, like, if this is the most important thing that he's going to have to possibly do every week or so.
Yes. and well, sir, once you're actually president, then you'll have the football, and then you will be able to release weapons. Let's do. Can we make a fake football? Is there a fake one we can make just in case? Okay, yeah, sir, we'll have a football
Is
right
that a
next
violation of the law to make a fake football? Going back to Portland, though, specifically,
Yes,
because we kind of got off the topic. Basically, what our point was there is you have no messiahs, whether or not you are a Republican or a Democrat. It is not just Trump acting alone, nor is it Obama by himself upending all of constitutionality. It is a long, drawn-out process of both Republicans and Democrats who have led us to this place where now we have the possibility for a president to use a federal law enforcement to crack down on any perceived slights by the executive.
And to answer
By an acting DHS secretary and an acting undersecretary and everywhere along the chain of command between Trump and boots on the ground are acting people who have not been confirmed by anybody. Can you even imagine if somebody was like, "Hey, can you watch my dog shop, my pet store for a week?
Yeah.
While I go on vacation." It's pretty simple. People will come in. All the prices are on the thing. I trust you to handle it. And then while they were gone, you turned it into a strip club or something like that. Like,
Yep.
You're an acting person here. You shouldn't have the opportunity to just wildly change everything about what we're doing here.
And to be fair, many are acting because he can't keep someone around long enough
Well,
to
also
actually get to and get through.
They don't even bother bringing it up for confirmation because as soon as you get the no, then they can't be acting anymore.
Right. Yeah. And going back to 2016 again, or
You can
2015.
get as many fucking judges through as you want, but you can't get a goddamn DHS secretary.
Well, it requires a supermajority.
Yeah.
Judges only require a majority.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the state of the Senate is right now? Anybody? So the one of the things we said back in 2016 was it's a powerful weapon and it could be used by somebody in the future. And people said, "Oh, that's crazy." Now it's being used against people.
Yeah.
And I said this week, "Hey, we need to be careful because this could spread out other places." Portland is a great place to test it because it's a very politically active city and there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. We should keep an eye on it.
And a fantastic mixture of liberalism and libertarianism.
and
It's like the
strange-
perfect storm of
Strange safe house of Nazism too. I'm not really sure where that comes from, but Portland. Oh well, Oregon was.
It's a little bit of everything.
Oregon was created as a safe house for white supremacists, so that's where it comes from. But then it was invaded by hipsters, so they're not so happy about that. But I said this week, it can go out and can be used other places. This is a great proving ground. And people are like, "Oh, you're overreacting. Who cares?" Well, Josh Marshall reported this week that Deputy Secretary no acting, but should be included that he is in fact acting because he hasn't been the secretary hasn't been confirmed, so he can't appoint anyone. Ken Cuccinelli, I think is how you say that. That he told NPR that they are not stopping at Portland. This is the proving ground for tactics, which will then go nationwide.
Trump just recently said that Oakland, Chicago, Baltimore, a whole bunch of, there was like 7 cities that he named that this is going to start happening. And here's the thing. The idea was, the idea is that when this all was passed, when the NDAA of 2014 was passed, the idea is right now there are a lot of people who have not violated a law, but are going to incredibly violate the law.
No. They're not going to violate it.
No, it was one of those. It was one of those. If there's a shooter at a Walmart or something like that.
Yeah.
Up until the point that they go into the Walmart and pull the trigger, they have not violated a law.
Right.
But if we know for a fact that they are going to plan this next Saturday is going to be their crime spree, and they're going to do it, then this gives the government under the guise of Homeland Security the permission structure in which to take that guy away.
Yes.
Put him into a black site prison. There is no need to contact a lawyer. There is no alerting anybody that you have been locked up.
Nope.
You're actually not technically locked up. You're just put in a room where you don't know where you are until they feel like letting you out. And we did the stories about the ones in Chicago. Mm-hmm. One guy was picked up for fucking possession of marijuana and was fucking black prison for a week.
So here's the thing. When they mark you on this list to be taken, what the NDAA allowed is that you are reclassified from a citizen to an enemy combatant. And it doesn't matter that you're an American on American soil. If you are planning a shooting, which is an act of terrorism, domestic terrorism, you can now be recategorized as an enemy combatant and treated as if they had taken you off a battlefield in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And if you guys aren't aware, what we do with those people is we stick them in Guantanamo Bay and we never finish a trial. We never charge them with anything. We just hold them there. The idea being, well, we'll let them get old enough that they can't fight and then send them back to Afghanistan, which is essentially what we do.
Yeah.
We kept people there for 15 years. The guy's now like 45. And like, he can't fight anymore. All right, send him back to Afghanistan. Or we wait till the Taliban takes prisoners that we want to get back, and then we make a trade.
Right. We have some prisoners. You have some prisoners.
So one of my suggestions is, of course, we should start taking prisoners. If they're going to put one of ours in the hospital or the black site, we put one of theirs in the morgue. And then we just see how this works. However, that will lead to, open gunfire in the streets.
And civil war.
I do believe I predicted around that same time as well. As happening. So
I that's the real problem with this whole situation is that at a certain point when the Constitution has been violated so fervently, the only thing that the Constitution specifically says is an option for dealing with someone who is violating said Constitution is to overthrow the government.
Well, not the Constitution itself. The Declaration of Independence says
true, yes.
When we can no longer work under the bounds of the system and our requests for redress are ignored and you act like a despot, we have only one recourse, and that is to overthrow you and to implant a new government which will secure those things which we want to be secured.
I'm just like, to me, it's shocking that all these people who were Obama haters and Trump sycophants who are constantly going out there and saying like, oh, it's not fucking funny when Obama's trying to take your liberties away from you. I'm like, yeah, agreed. Mm-hmm. Why not this one? Why aren't we talking about this guy now?
Where's all those, I'd rather live on or die on my feet than live on my knees.
Yeah.
All the libertarians with the guns who are going to overthrow it.
What is fucking Rand Paul saying about this shit right now? I haven't even looked that up. That's going to be my next.
You're going to have to go over to Parlay to find that probably. I don't know if he's putting that on Twitter. It's
a statement from Rand Paul's office is on Twitter now.
It's so I pulled a different picture. Just this is what the cops look like. If you're watching on the video, you can see that there is a police officer who has no badges, no name. It just says police on his camo.
Oh, here. Okay, hold on. Courage and freedom here.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Rand Paul on Monday spoke out against federal officers rounding the people up at will in Portland, Oregon, saying the handling of unrest should be left to local law enforcement. We cannot give up liberty for security. Local law enforcement can and should be handling these situations in our cities, and there is no place for the federal troops or unidentified federal agents rounding people up at will, Paul tweeted Monday. So, yes, very nice. Good
However,
for you. Because let's also remind ourselves, these aren't people who are wearing badges and uniform numbers or anything like that. These are people who are designed to look as covert as humanly possible, with no kind of identification, throwing people in unmarked vans and taking them to ?
Yeah. Also, rented vans. If you run the plates, they come back to Hertz. They don't come back to anybody else. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Can't follow the van. Can't follow the people. Have no idea who they are. And you can see the image sitting next to me right now if you're watching the video. It's literally just a guy in all camo who looks like a soldier out of Iraq.
Yeah.
But it says police across his chest. He's got sunglasses on at night because, he's clearly cool.
Yeah.
And
he's clearly Corey Hart.
There's no way to identify him whatsoever. I can't tell the race of most of these police officers.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess white, but I have no idea what their race might be. And you have just no way to keep track of anything.
Yeah.
And this is happening in American City.
And the thing is that, Trump is arguing that they're anarchists and that they're violating the law. Great. If they're violating the law, then there's no reason to extradition, to sweep them up just out of nowhere.
Yes.
You can charge them with the crime and you can bring them into court and say, these are the charges against you. How do you plea? And continue on from there. At that point, I know whether or not this guy's an anarchist. If you bring in Chad from Portland and he goes in front of the judge and he says, yeah, I tried to light the federal building on fire. It's just like, well, all right, I'm guilty. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But like, if you just sweep him up and put him in the back of the van, I'm more inclined to let him go.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's done. I don't know how guilty he is of the crimes you're saying he committed. But until you give me some sort of evidence of proof that he deserves to be in the back of a van and then in some warehouse somewhere, you're not going to get it. Like, what do you...
Also, keep in mind, Chad the anarchist, no crime committed there.
Yeah.
You are allowed to be an anarchist. Chad who wants to light the federal building on fire...
Versus Chad who did?
Chad who tried to or did, there's a crime.
I'm saying if there's an actual charge where you could say on Friday, Chad went up to the federal building and threw a piece of paper against it, hoping that it would catch on fire.
Okay, yeah, sure.
At least he made an attempt. He didn't Chad his way out of this one.
The other problem is that Chad looks like he's a Antifa super soldier who's taking beatings with a nightstick and smiling about it.
That Navy guy is fucking incredible. I love that guy.
I wish I had pulled the video.
Not only the like turning away after getting beaten with the sticks, but the like double barrel middle fingers as he's like walking away, like fuck you guys.
There's a video going around on Twitter where this guy who's in a Navy shirt, I don't know if he's in a Navy, but looks like he could be in a Navy. He's head and shoulders taller than all the cops around him. And this guy just goes to work on him with a baton. 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't move, doesn't seem to be impacted by it. This other guy gets maybe 4 inches away from his face, hits him with pepper spray, and he does this like, rah, rah, like it's making me stronger kind of look. And then they all the cops are like, shit.
It was the same move that used to happen when you would start beating up on Hulk Hogan and he would just start hulking up. Like the more you punch him, the more he was like, ah.
Yes. So then those cops back off and you see like 6 more step up. And then Navy man wisely says, I can take 1 baton, but 7. I didn't know how many guys they were going to use to kick my ass. But I knew it was going to be enough, and that's the important fact. So he just turns around to walk away, but then double barrels of middle fingers back over his shoulders as he calmly walks away from them. By the way, white privilege, unbelievable in that moment, because I don't think any person of color would do that. They'd be like, I survived a police encounter. I'm going to walk away from this. Okay, great.
Yeah, it is a moment of white privilege. I do think.
Yes, but well earned as you take the beating from the baton and don't.
I mean,
don't
if you're using it to go out there and protest, police killings of people, akin to George Floyd, then I think that your privilege is exempted in this.
Yeah, we'll allow.
It's not a bad privilege to take the beating on behalf of others.
The problem with this is it's a developing story. We know they're going to try and roll it out to other places, but we haven't seen it any other places. But also, I've noticed no mainstream media coverage of this whatsoever.
It picked up more today. It was
okay. Well, there you go.
What was really nuts about it was, when was the actual video of the guy getting thrown in the van? That was Thursday or Friday, right?
Yeah, it was maybe Wednesday night, and it came out Thursday on Twitter.
I feel like Thursday or Friday is when I first saw it, and I felt like I was looking for, like Orioles Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes when you're just searching for one thing on Twitter and you just like type in Orioles and you're just like, I just want to read all the Orioles tweets right now.
I'm trying to get into the vein. By the way, white people who didn't realize that Black Twitter is just regular Twitter. It exists on Twitter.
It's just black people on Twitter.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Orioles Twitter, same way. You just you got to get yourself in the vein. And once you find the Oriole, then you can go down the threads.
Yeah, you don't go to black.twitter.com or anything
No,
like that.
no.
It's just contained within Twitter.
Although, copyright. We're going to copyright that idea.
Well,
that's
I
$1
mean,
million
Twitter's
idea.
got its own problems right now. This show is so loaded, we have no time for fucking Twitter losing control of all its verified accounts and having them all put out Bitcoin things.
Yes.
And apparently that Bitcoin operation making $100,000 on that thing.
From dumb
And
people.
apparently it being a Twitter inside job. And apparently all the tweets are locked out. All these people are locked out now from their Twitter accounts because if you changed in the last month, you're locked out of your account. So
Yeah.
that is not a story for today. That's a story for another day when we
But
know
by the
more
way,
about it.
there are a lot of people not wearing masks. I'm not surprised that people fell for a Bitcoin scam. What are you going to do?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Last thought on Portland before we go. The one thing that makes me not so worried about this moment, like the impending coming of a new civil war,
The doom.
is that, to the best of our knowledge, the people involved in being this federal police force are not Army or Marines or Navy or any acting member of the military, but more likely border security or border patrol.
Yeah.
Other Homeland Security agents, but not there. There's very little infrastructure for there to actually be a police force that goes national.
Yeah.
Out of this office, like the fact that they have to rent vans is evidence to many that they don't have the vans to necessarily do this thing. So
Army might have Humvees or something they could use. By the way,
Right.
no plates on those either, so you'd still be screwed. But
And I mean, like, we're going to have ourselves a very different conversation, a much more serious conversation about this. This is already a serious conversation, but a deadly serious conversation about this. If Army start coming down start rolling down Fifth Avenue in major American cities to...
oh well, I mean, do you remember Baltimore in 2015?
Oh,
Or
yeah. Well,
Los Angeles.
We'll get to Larry
this year?
Hogan here.
Okay.
Yeah, well...
Because that's happened. And also pretty silent were all those libertarians who were like, if there's tanks on the streets, I'll be in the streets with my gun. Didn't see any of you out here in L.A. Just saying.
There's more of a we've called time out on this situation when the National Guard gets involved that I feel like most people are just like, I can hold off on my protesting for a little while until the Guard leaves and I can peacefully come back and protest some more. This issue can wait until the National Guard gets tired of being here.
Not anymore, because they'll black bag you. When the National Guard leaves, that's where the black baggers show up. So.
Oh my God.
But
terrifying things.
Yes, but we will we'll keep you posted on that as the story develops, because I'm sure this is not the last we've heard of it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it is probably one of the few last times we will be speaking about John Lewis. Unfortunately, he passed on this week. He died
Friday, I believe.
I believe it was Friday, yes. And if you don't know who John Lewis is, there's an image of him up on the video right now. We've spoken about him pretty often. If you've seen a picture of the Selma bus boycott or the Montgomery bus boycott or the Selma marches, you have seen a picture of a very young John Lewis getting his skull cracked in by the state police in Alabama. That image
Crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yes, which, by the way, he was the Grand Wizard of the KKK in the Alabama, and that bridge is still named the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yes.
John Lewis.
I think it should be the John Lewis Bridge, personally.
And I think if you want to find a time to do it, now seems like a pretty good time. We're tearing down, Confederate monuments and naming things after pretty great black leaders from the Civil Rights era. Now's the time. John Lewis, the John Lewis Bridge. And, Yeah. So John Lewis did a lot of cool stuff. Even in his older years, he was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in the 60s. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But for those who didn't know, as he aged, especially as it came into the 90s and the 2000s, he would, on occasion,
Still get arrested.
What's that?
Still get arrested.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's still getting arrested. That's more recent.
He was arrested on the House of the Floor like 2 years ago for a gun rights bill that he was trying to get passed.
Yep. Refused to leave the floor,
Yeah.
as you guys might remember, and then started live streaming it. And John Lewis, selfie live streaming, it's something you want to check out. It's a guy who doesn't really understand how it works, but somebody at one point told him, hit this button, then hit this button, and you're good. And so it's
He did it with gusto.
Yes, yeah. But he used to cosplay as his younger self and go to conventions and wait for people to kind of figure out who he was. And it was really moving thing to watch young black people who really are new to the cons anyway. Cons have traditionally been a white people thing. And then it kind of expanded out to be a white and people of Asian descent thing. But black kids never really got into it. Once they started, it was interesting that John Lewis was like, I can take advantage of this by educating people about the past. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go to Furry Con or whatever con was going on.
It was Comic-Con, I think.
Was it Comic-Con? Okay, sure, whatever.
It was very good.
Comic-Con.
I feel like John Lewis would show up and he's just like, oh, what fush? What fresh hell is this?
But he would go to Comic-Con and cosplay as himself and then have all of the young black kids march with him around the convention center and just like
wearing the
getup. He's cosplaying as himself with
his
the
old
backpack.
trench coat and backpack.
And one of the things, he was wearing the trench coat that he got his skull cracked in. And I don't know, it's just that he never once gave up this entire time. He's been once the courts rolled back the Voting Rights or bits of the Voting Rights Act. He was pushing for Congress to step in and renew it, and then like overdoing the courts.
Well, and when I think of John Lewis specifically, there's an expression he used a lot. I think it was the title of one of his books as well, but good trouble. Mm-hmm. And he always spoke of nonviolence, but knowing that he was going to put himself in a situation which would incite violence.
Yeah.
But that the act of inciting the violence is going to get us quicker to the end, and he would rather be the brunt of the hit than somebody else along the line. Like, he could take it. And in showing and allowing the violence to happen to him, he allows himself to not only show his own place in this situation, but also he would always sort of examine the other person in the sense that, like, this person is broken too. The person who hit me is broken too. Like, we all need to come together and fix the deep issues between us and come to a better place. And it's an incredible legacy that we're basically done with the civil rights heroes of MLK now, because we have that, and we have C.T. Vivian.
I was going to say, and C.T. Vivian also died this week. He was a man who Martin Luther King called the greatest preacher he had ever heard.
Yeah.
And although he was a preacher, he was also politically active. That's not a thing we do anymore. Just kidding. You could 100% hear preachers talking politics, even though they're not supposed to. But he was, again, a leader in the civil rights movement. And we're getting to that stage now that I think 10 years ago we got with World War II vets, where they were dying off at like 1,000 a day or something like that. And there was a realization that, like, we need to go out and find these stories, because if not, we're going to lose them forever. These guys never told their kids, never told their wives what happened while they were over there. And somebody needs to go ask them and record it. And I think we're starting to get to that place in the civil rights movement. Like, the leaders are dying off now, but there's a group of late teens, early 20-year-olds that are just as old as these guys, who were the ones backing John Lewis on the bridge.
And I'm glad that in recent years there's been more of a push in film and in like documentaries and TV and stuff like that to sort of talk about specifically I think of Selma, just because it's talking about the crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge and stuff like that. So
can't get the speeches. Doesn't matter. We're making the movie anyway. All right.
All the intention was there.
Yeah.
All the good intention was there. But yes, a very sad day for civil rights and American history.
I mean, I think the saddest part is that John Lewis lived his entire life. He was a young man who grew up under Jim Crow. He spent most of his youth overturning Jim Crow and bringing about civil rights.
His parents or grandparents were
grandparents
slaves, right?
were slaves.
Yeah.
His grandparents were born property.
Yeah.
And they got to see themselves be free. His parents lived under Jim Crow their entire lives. He grew up or was born under Jim Crow and then helped bring about civil rights. And the year that he died, we are still arguing about police acting the same way they did under Jim Crow, about the unnecessary deaths of black men at the hands of police, the incarceration rates in the United States that exceed the number of men ever in bondage under slavery. Like, we're not there. And it's sad that, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and I think there was an assumption that clearly, he died pushing for this goal, and he was okay with not seeing the end.
Yeah.
John Lewis, I think, would have said, if you had asked him in 1975, like, we're nearly there. Before the end of my life, my kids, my grandkids are never going to have to worry about this. But he's got teen-year-old grandkids, like probably 12 or 13. I've seen pictures of them. I can't say how old they are.
I can't imagine that he thought there would be the end of the tunnel by the time he was done.
I mean, I think there was a lot of talk about it. Like, if we keep up the progress the way that we're going, that things are going to be equal. But they just never did.
If you want to talk about making right of the whole thing, you can pass the Voting Rights Act, which is something that John Lewis championed for his entire life.
Yeah.
So there's that. He dies with that. That's still never passing.
Yep.
So.
And I feel like we're losing all of the people who lived through the first movement, and that is setting us up for the only result is going to be a second movement, which we're already seeing the first vestiges of. But
I mean, I would categorize it more as waves. Like I think a lot about civil rights in the same way that I think about like feminism in a way, because like there's like the first wave feminism, second wave feminism, and how things changed slightly along the way to adapt to whatever was going along the way. I feel like there's been more swings in sort of like civil rights in general, if you were to talk about it in the same way, and at a certain point it branches out a lot based on the civil rights civil rights in the South is way different than civil rights in the Northeast.
That is absolutely
for example,
true.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
but you can get your ass beat by a cop in
anywhere.
any city in this country.
Any city in this country, it's all welcome. And hopefully, we will have Ruth Bader Ginsburg around with us for a little while longer to help make sure that is not happening as often.
So, again, another big story out of this week. And I love and I hate the way that she kind of lets the news go, because she is now in treatment and headed toward remission again. And that's when she drops the news that, earlier this year, I was diagnosed with cancer yet again. And I have been seeking treatment. I'm pushing forward with treatment. I'm not leaving the bench. And it's one of those things that I said to Corey in the pre-show meeting that this cancer it's one of those that older people tend to get. There's, as you get older, men. Corey and I are both
for
males.
the last 20 years, she's been dealing with different forms. She had pancreatic cancer in 2009, lung cancer in 2018. She's been a fighter for the whole way through.
But Corey and I are both men, and at some point in our lives, if we are blessed to live long enough, our prostate will decide it's time to kill this person. And it is inevitable that if a man was to live to be 150, he will either have his prostate removed or it will get cancer and kill him sometime in his life. The human body has now exceeded what our evolutionary step of aging is. So everything's just like, hey, we're not designed to live this long, so cancer.
Yeah.
And the tragedy for Ruth Bader Ginsburg is that she is on the tragedy for her, other than her health and her family, is that she's on the Supreme Court and she can't step aside because of who she'll be replaced by. she has been stuck since the Merrick Garland disaster in 2016 with the idea that I need to serve till the next Democratic president, because no matter what, there will be someone far to the right that I'm replaced with, and I cannot in good conscience allow that to happen.
Well, also remember that right now, this moment in time, exactly now, is still within the window of when Merrick Garland was nominated for a Supreme Court seat.
Within the window, meaning it happened further away from the election.
Yes, we are within the amount of time that Garland would have been announced and the election would be coming.
And what did Mitch say about it at that point?
That it was too close to the election and that the voters should have a decision on who the Supreme Court judge.
Yes.
And if Hillary Clinton wins, then Merrick Garland can be we'll hear it. But if Trump wins, then I feel like we should listen to what his view on because it's so close to the election, we can't decide this.
Now, if something was to happen,
Clarence Thomas decides he wants to step down.
let's just say, what are the odds you think that Trump just appoints someone and Mitch tries to shove through?
Oh, 1,000%. There's not even a doubt in my mind. It could be November 1st, and
yes,
you could have Clarence Thomas fall in the bathtub, and they're going to figure out a way to push it through before January.
Yeah. And most importantly, my guess is they're going to find somebody, I don't know, further to the right of Alex Jones and 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Their goal would be to put a 31-year-old far-right justice on the court, because then he's going to be there.
Yeah,
he's going
yes.
to outlast everybody.
Stephen Miller, get it.
Oh, yeah, Stephen Miller. Does he have a law degree?
I don't know.
God, I hope not. And now we've given him the idea. Now he's like, well, all right, off to law school.
Now I'm starting to worry whether or not that has to be part of the equation.
Okay,
I just always assumed that you'd have to go through law school to be a Supreme Court justice. I
You don't.
figured that it would be a law, but
no, you don't.
you don't?
Nope.
Oh my God, I never even thought of this. Why didn't I ever think of this?
There are no requirements for being on the Supreme Court. Because when the first 9 were appointed, they, like Washington, thought, we're setting a standard. It's all very well-known jurists who have been at every level of the federal government, and or it was the colonial government at that point. But these guys are well-respected, and they're known to be great jurists, and we're going to put them on a court. And for the first time, we're going to have 9 of the greatest justices in one place. And then it took, until Jefferson for him to appoint someone who was more along of his political leanings than someone else's. And then slowly but surely they've creeped younger and younger till Roberts was 40 or 41 when he was appointed. So no, there's no, I don't think Kagan has I don't think she has a law degree. Or I don't think she was a lawyer or a judge. She might have a law degree, but I don't think she was a lawyer or a judge ever. She was at the HHS, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah. I think she might have a law degree, but she wasn't actually ever a practicing lawyer or a judge.
Interesting.
Yep.
I figured that would have been, I guess I wasn't paying attention at that point, but.
At 27, when I graduated from law school, I was overqualified for the Supreme Court. Could not be elected to the Senate, could not be elected governor.
Right.
Could be placed on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, 3 years earlier when I was like, I feel like I should go to law school. Bush could have been like, you know what? Forget law school. You don't need that. Up to the Supreme Court with you, Mr. 28-year-old. You seem like a good fit. Why not? Now, you have to get passed by the Senate.
Yeah.
And if it's a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president, then I will 100% believe that it's got to be a well-qualified jurist who's been on the bench for a long time.
Who's middle of the road. Who
Middle
won't
of the
ruffle
road,
feathers.
center left, maybe at max.
Yeah.
If it is a Republican president.
Right of Ginsburg. That's essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's a Republican president, and if they have a 66 to what's the rest of that? 34 result in the Senate, you are going to get Stephen Miller. That is who you're going to
Or
get.
Don Trump Jr.
Eric. You'll get Eric Trump. Who, by the way, I cannot even picture in real life anymore.
Yeah.
It's just my cartoon president. It's the only person I picture. But get well soon, RBG. We need you to stay on the bench for a very, very long time, unfortunately. So please be well.
Yes. Back onto the national news. Trump, a deeply unsettled man who is unraveling before our eyes at a far accelerated pace to what it had been before.
This picture of him is so good. I can't wait to switch over. I can't wait till people see this. Just him smiling over Yeah, go ahead. Why are we talking about him this week?
So there was a couple things beyond the whole, having federal law enforcement go into American cities,
Yes,
and arrest people without constitutional protections. We are also dealing with the CEO of Goya at some point last week said that we are all honored by the president's great leadership or something like that in a moment like this.
Yep. Did
And-
exactly what he needed to do.
And at the same thing that happens to literally every single one of these people who go up and say, like, Trump is an incredible leader, is Democrats on Twitter start going, like, boycott my pillow.
Yep.
And now Goya falls into the line of this as well. And I've seen so much in the past 2 weeks of people I know on Twitter who are vowing to never buy a Goya product again.
I'm getting a
Simply
lot of
because
those pictures of the ethnic aisle in many stores where it's just like there are no beans at all on the top 3 shelves, but the Goya shelf all the way full.
Yeah.
LA, you hipster nonsense, you're beautiful. But you're leaving everybody in suspense. How does this come into play with Trump?
Well, he didn't like the fact that people were threatening to boycott this guy for saying that Trump's doing such an incredible job of an ethnic food company, by the way.
That he has never eaten in his life.
It's incredible. And now Trump is behind the Resolute desk taking pictures with Goya products. Ivanka Trump on Twitter posting a picture of her holding up Goya like...
Wait. Don't degrade her like that. She is Chief White House...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to give her a proper title.
Yes, Chief White House Advisor.
Chief
Ivanka
White
Trump.
House Daddy's girl.
Yeah, whatever it is. She has an official position, which makes this a double Hatch Act violation.
Well, if you want to talk about the Hatch Act being violated, he also had his Rose Garden press conference a week ago or something like that, where it was a campaign event. I mean, I don't know how you watch that thing and don't say that he was up there campaigning, because most of it was about how Biden is going to get rid of police forces and blah, blah, blah. And
He's going to defund the police, which
defund the police,
he didn't
which-
say he was going to do.
Yeah, he absolutely is not going to do.
Is it Chris Wallace? Chris Wallace,
Yeah.
the first reporter to actually call him on it, and
I like the fact that what Chris Wallace did on the Fox Sunday show there was that all he did was just lay these little breadcrumbs for Trump to follow. It's just like he's talking about the test, like the Montreal cognitive test that
Yes.
he aced, and the doctors were very impressed. They've never seen anybody do it like that
the
before.
score that he got,
It
just
was
amazing.
It was never unlike anything.
Yeah.
Wallace kept throwing in like, well, I took the test too. The third question is this a horse or something? And like he's just like, yeah, but it gets more difficult as it goes along, and you wouldn't know about it. It's like, I took the test. It's like, get me the test. Eventually, it just leads to Trump just like bellowing for like somebody to get him. Like there was the point where it's just like, Biden wants to defund the police. It's like he's never said anything like that, and it's
He
just
said it
like,
in the pledge. He said it in the pledge.
He said it in the contract with Sanders. and
That's
it's just
that's not what he said.
not what he
sir.
said. Oh, get me the pledge. Fucking incredible.
By the way,
just just lead him along. Just wait until
off camera gave him 17 minutes to find in the pledge where Biden said he would defund the police, and then apparently Trump, unable to find it, threw it away, and he said, move on. And so it seems to cut out of nowhere from like, he didn't say that. Give me the pledge. Mr. President, what are we doing? Because he just didn't want any of that in.
By the way, apologies to anyone who's looking at my hair right now. It's just doing whatever the fuck it wants. I have no control over the situation.
It's quarantine, baby. I don't know. But by the way, you skipped over
That's
this.
coronavirus, baby.
You skipped over this. I want to go back to it.
Yes.
That is the Resolute desk.
Yes.
That Goya products are sitting on with this smiling idiot behind them. Why is the Resolute desk important?
Well, I mean, it's been seen. Was it where did the Resolute desk start? Was it with Roosevelt or was it with Eisenhower? I can't remember.
It was Roosevelt. The
Roosevelt.
first Roosevelt, not the second Roosevelt.
Oh, it was Teddy.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh,
Yes.
It has long been considered the official desk of the president, if you will.
Not every president has used it, though.
Not every president has used it, but a large majority of them use it. It's seen as the number one desk in presidential circles.
Let's talk about things that have resided on the Resolute desk.
Yeah.
the order to bomb Japan with nuclear weapons
Yeah.
on the Resolute desk.
Right.
The signing of going to war, not once, but twice in a world war, has been on that desk. There was an order to start the global thermonuclear war residing on that desk.
Yeah.
Kennedy never signed it, but it was on the desk.
Yeah.
He instead decided to go with the blockade by another name, whatever he called it. Quarantine. The quarantine of Cuba. Reagan, I don't think, used it. Clinton used it, so
And Obama used it.
Obama used it, but I don't think Bush used it either.
I think Bush used whatever
Nixon's desk.
Reagan used,
Which was Nixon's desk, which was some other Republican's desk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a
maybe
Democratic
Eisenhower's
desk.
or something like that.
Maybe it was the Eisenhower desk, yeah. But Teddy is a
But Republicans have used it. I mean,
Yeah.
like it has been used by Republicans.
Teddy was a Republican.
Yeah.
And then it was used by his cousin when he became president. Hey, Lincoln was a Republican too, okay?
They were.
Yeah, technically.
Something tells me that if Teddy Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln just sauntered into the Senate, and they were just like, "Oh, let's go see what's going on in the Republican cloakroom."
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
opened up the doors. They'd be like, "Oh, holy hell!"
No, here's the thing. If Lincoln, in his infinite wisdom, was to wander into the Senate just as they were breaking,
Yeah.
and then was to follow a group which he thought would be the Republicans into the cloakroom, he would find himself in the Democratic cloakroom. He'd be like, wait, there's all these white guys over here.
There's an awful lot of women in here.
Well, that's true too. Maybe Roosevelt's a better example. Yeah. But he would just say, hey, wait, there's people of color, there's women. Clearly, this is my Republican Party. I'm going to follow them into their Democratic cloakroom. Well, let's go over to the Republican side. A lot of white guys.
Oh, hey, Tim Scott.
Shit, what was the senator who just died? Strom Thurmond.
Yeah.
If he was still there, just like, hey, Strom, what's going on? I remember you.
Hair's still kicking.
By the way, Strom Thurmond would have been
How dare you sully these halls once walked by Strom Thurmond?
Strom Thurmond would have been a child while Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States, and he was.
Was
in
he born at the turn of the century?
He was 35. No, he was in his mid 40s in 1948 when he ran for president under the Dixiecrat Party.
So he probably would have just been on the tail end of.
Now Roosevelt was
Roosevelt.
in 1900 to 1908. So assuming that Strom Thurmond was
No.
like, say, yeah,
1901 to 1908.
right, because he took over. He had the rest
From
of it,
McKinley.
yes, and then wasn't president from 8 to 12. Ran again in 12. But so let's say Strom Thurmond was 45 in 1948.
Yeah.
Then that means he was born in 1903 and was a child when Teddy
Gotcha,
Roosevelt was president of the United
Yeah.
States. And he was in the Senate for like 70 years. By
And
the way, guys.
Teddy Roosevelt's no saint, but
Absolutely not.
I think
He
I would still rather have Teddy Roosevelt. I would rather just have a couple days with Teddy Roosevelt to tell him all the things he's not allowed to do or say anymore.
Yeah.
and then
let him
just
out.
let him do
Yeah.
what he's gonna do.
Yeah, you let Teddy wander onto the floor. He's gonna give his lunch order to Kamala Harris, and he's gonna give his shoes to Cory Booker, and then it's gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's not a perfect guy, but you
No.
know, Trump. We got to keep everything relative.
How unperfect do we want to be?
Trump's born in this period and still that way. So,
In addition,
Yes.
to all the other shit. Speaking specifically of the awfulness of Trump, Mary Trump's book came out. Is coming out today. Is the podcast is released? I believe.
Yes,
I think
I
this
think
is
so.
the release date. And she has been doing the news circuit now that the restraining order from her talking about this is done away with. She maintains all the awful things that we all know about Trump, and I guess if you're into the type of thing, apparently a lot of people are, because it's going to be the number one New York Times bestseller immediately once it becomes a released book.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's worth reading, but I don't think there's anything that we're learning here that we didn't already know in some way or another.
more confirmation.
Yeah, well,
Somebody
I mean, like,
inside, who knows?
well, like she was being interviewed by Maddow, and Maddow said, "Has Donald Trump ever said racist or anti-Semitic things. And she's just like, yeah. And she's just like, anti-Semitic? And it's just like, yeah. It's like racist? And it's just like, yeah. It's like, how racist? And it's like, the N-word was used liberally.
Yes.
All the time. Like in my family, literally anything was said all the time. So yes, he said it. Whatever it is you think, he said it. And it's just
All
like,
of them, not just
yeah.
one.
And like you just like watch Maddow just go like, oh my God. I was hoping that like at least somewhere like it'd be like, no, he's a good guy at the behind closed doors, he's fine. But no, he's just as awful as I think he is behind closed doors too. And like that Maddow, I still feel like has this like this thing about her, like even though she's the commandeer for the resistance, she's also like deeply unsettled by how far America is falling every single day, and she just weighs on her, you know.
Yes.
But
I have. I apologize for.
there was the same thing with Cuomo. With like he had an interview with her that I saw where, you know,
he's blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I still,
amazing stuff you're talking about in this book.
I hear Cuomo in the voice of Andrew Cuomo from Our Cartoon President, and I just cannot take him seriously anymore. We've been neglecting the Discord channel.
Chicky cereal.
We've been neglecting the Discord channel, so I want to make sure we go back. Tony Steele has once again joined us in the Discord. So Tony, thank you for joining us. No matter where you're watching, you can comment on the stream there. It'll pop up here in the Discord, or you can go into the Discord channel directly. The link will be there on social media. But I think those are comments back from when we were talking about Portland. So I apologize, Tony, that we missed it on that. We were really involved in that conversation. But thank you for joining us on this week's episode.
Yeah, and if you do come into the comments, sometimes there's about a 30-second delay between when we say something and when it broadcasts on the internet.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there may be a little bit of a delay between us seeing it and when it's posted. So if there's something specific that you want us to talk about, I guess questions would be best.
Yes.
Or, anything.
And comments are fine. Just got to get some context.
Yeah.
I mean, what Tony has said here is it makes it easier to kill citizens. The streets are already widened for tanks. I'm guessing that was Portland. That's what we were talking about with Portland. So, but some context can be helpful to help us know what exactly it is that you guys are talking about. One other thing I want to circle back to, you mentioned it offhand, but in the true Washington fashion, we are now 10 days of the posting of this episode from the end of the month of July, where unemployment benefits will just stop for anybody who has been gone into unemployment because of coronavirus.
Yes.
And of course, today, the Republicans announced that they are finally ready to have serious talks about extending the unemployment benefits.
Right.
And the main thing is that they had $3 trillion plan last time. And of that, $900 million, which by my calculations is less than a third of the total money, was earmarked for unemployment.
Hold on a second. That checks out.
Okay.
I just did the math.
Quick math was earmarked for unemployment benefits, and they only spent $200 to $300 million of it. Mm-hmm. So essentially, the Republicans are only willing to talk because they're really just re-spending money that was already spent. But that $3 trillion turned out to be something closer to a little over, I think it was like 1 3/4 to 2.
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, we have another trillion to play with. It's all debt, by the way. This is not money that exists. It's debt money. And the Democrats, because they are pushing their way to mediocrity, didn't put out a plan that was like, hey, $1,000 a month for everyone until COVID is over.
Yeah.
They didn't say extending benefits plus. They said, look, all we want to do is extend benefits through September.
Well, the problem is they feel like they don't want to overplay their winning hand, but they walk into the room with their winning hand and realize, oh yeah, we can be outvoted by the Senate, so our winning hand is nothing.
Yes.
Our winning. The idea that most of the American people would be behind whatever we pitch at the moment, is
that
not good
makes a
enough for the
difference.
Republicans who have the votes, which is more important than the will of the people.
By the way, I'll remind everyone, if you happen to live in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell is going to be in a very, very close election this fall.
Yeah, Amy McGrath, if you're interested in looking it up.
There you go. And
also, I keep forgetting his name. I want to talk about this at some point. There is a far left progressive AOC style candidate, Indian gentleman, I believe, who is running against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco.
Indian gentleman or Native American gentleman?
Indian, like
Gotcha.
Asian Indian. Yes.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
he is he seems pretty great to me. I don't know anything about him. I just saw a passing article about oh, here's the poor schmuck who's running against Nancy Pelosi. Maybe worth serious consideration. All I'm saying is I'd rather have an AOC type than a Nancy Pelosi type.
Yes.
That's just me.
And that seat's staying blue no matter what. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
so.
it's San Francisco. It's fine. It's two Democrats are going against each other in the general election.
Yes.
You choose between which one of the two Democrats you want the most.
Yeah.
I argue the one who is not Nancy Pelosi would be the best. Because guess what? She was around when we did the 2014 National Defense Authorization Act. She was the leader, the Speaker of the House at the time, much like she is right now.
Yes.
And yes, these people cannot be trusted. Let's fucking move away from.
Now, similarly, Chuck Schumer has an opponent in his primary or in his general election. However, that's a Republican candidate. And although he's unlikely to win against Schumer, I will still say go vote for Chuck Schumer because I would rather have a Democrat in that seat than a Republican. But if, I don't know, AOC decided to run for Senate from New York, then let's clearly put her in the Senate instead of Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
And put somebody else progressive in her seat. By the way, that's the other problem is the flaw with Democrats winning the presidential election is that they're inevitably going to pull from the Senate for, housing and urban development and state and everything else. So
people, the right has been very upset with the likes of the Squad and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and stuff like that, but with good reason. Yeah. Because for a change, some of these people have decided that they are not going to already figure out what the middle point between the two arguments was going to be and start with that as the beginning of the negotiation. AOC is like, no, Green New Deal. Here's all the things I want in it. Fight me on every single one. Yeah. which is even if you don't like the Green New Deal, you have to respect the gusto in which he approaches it.
Give no ground.
Yeah.
And then eventually
never
give ground.
Split the difference. It's a key role in negotiation that seems to be missing from Democratic Party
even if
handbooks.
You know where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
Start far away from that so you have room to give down to that point. Don't start at that point and then give more.
All you've been doing is just eating into whatever McConnell throws at you.
Yeah.
Because, McConnell's just going to be like, all right, we're talking about abortion now, so all of it is banned. Every single one of them. And it's just like, well, clearly it's not going to be that. And it's just like, all right, well, I've already started my position of negotiating. And
AOC, not that she has ever advocated this, but her negotiation style would be, okay, drive-through clinics. Seems appropriate to me. If you're inside the first trimester and you can have Rifpristazone prescribed to you, drive through. No reason to see a doctor. Over the counter. Just go to CVS. And Mitch has a heart attack, and after he survives that heart attack, then says, okay, maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle in between these two things.
Yeah. Don't start with some abortions for some abortions for none.
Start very extreme and then see where you end up in the middle.
Yeah.
But back to the topic, which is unemployment. The Republicans are finally willing to negotiate, which means that in true Democrat style, they're fighting their way to mediocrity. And
I've already seen the tweets that are saying we expect to land somewhere between $200 and $400 for that unemployment benefit.
Yeah,
it was $700.
Yeah.
By the way, just a peek into what it's like to be a freelancer on unemployment. I never, in my wildest dreams, imagined I would ever go on unemployment, but
well, you couldn't qualify before.
Well,
now.
These are very unusual circumstances, and they allowed it for freelancers. My state amount of unemployment I would be getting if there was no coronavirus CARES Act stuff involved is $130 a week. So right now I am at $730 a week, which is, still better than a lot of people are getting paid right now on minimum wage.
Yep.
But is also not a compelling, I also think that there needs to be some sort of factoring into where you live that goes into this thing.
I was going to say.
Because if somebody in Maryland hears $700 a week in unemployment, and they're probably getting, people there are getting $700 a week.
It's a king's ransom. I'm living better than I ever have before.
My rent is $700 for the month. So you've already paid for rent in 1 week.
Oh, you sweet souls.
you beautiful, smart little idiots.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same in Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco. No. Where $700 is you're getting by. You're figuring out a way to make it happen.
A one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles averages at $1,900 a month.
Yes, I would say like 17 to depending on how wide
I don't count
you're
the
casting.
valley.
Okay.
I don't count the valley.
So south of the hill,
south of the hills, east of the hills. So in the basin,
you're probably talking $2,000 then.
Yeah, 21, maybe 2,200.
Yeah.
If you get really lucky and you're in an old building and it's coronavirus and they're starting to lose people who are moving home.
I mean, like average, but this is probably a last summer average as opposed to There's deals to be had, I imagine, right now.
Well, I was gonna say, and unfortunately for most people, they're stuck in a lease and they can't get out of it. So the $2,300 they agreed to last year is what they're stuck in.
Well, not only that, but I mean, like, there's a lot of people who are dealing with getting evicted the second that the courts will allow evictions to happen again.
Yeah.
You're living in a constant state of, I haven't been able to pay the rent since this whole thing began, and it's not getting any better, and my due amount is just building and building and building, so that by the time in November,
maybe
you finally get to see a judge about an eviction, there's no effort being made to pay off the debt, and you're at $10,000 or something like that, and you just get kicked out.
Yeah.
And we are the worst part about the unemployment thing is that we are remarkably close to about 20% of the population of the United States to become homeless and incapable of digging themselves out.
Yep.
If all efforts are made to restrict the amount of money that they're getting.
By the way,
and it's there's Republicans who are saying that the reason for fighting the high unemployment benefit is for keeping the deficit down.
Yeah.
To which I want to say, go fuck yourself, because my tax dollars are going towards giving money to corporations and billionaires to keep more of their money. They have never been richer. They have gotten even richer during the period of economic downturn of the coronavirus.
Weird.
I can't work. I can't go to work. A film set can't get insurance right now. I can't, you could hypothetically get a permit, but you wouldn't be able to actually shoot anywhere without insurance. So I am currently sitting at a place where even if I wanted to work, I can't. And South Korea, who had the same first case on the same first day as us, is now at the point where they have no case. They had
zero cases. Yeah.
It was like 0 cases the last 100 days. They had 14,000 total cases. Florida had 14,000 total cases in a day. So we're not, we're clearly not on top of this. And I would love, I think everyone's best intention when the CARES Act passed the first time is that we just need a couple months to figure this out. Hopefully it's all done by
President's
the summer.
on it. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, we got Fauci. We got a whole bunch of people who are really smart who are going to be in charge of this thing.
Nope.
Definitely not Donald Trump, but he's just going to supervise. He's going to make sure everything's being done right, hiring all the best people and all that sort of stuff.
He's a good businessman. Yeah.
So
by the way,
it's only the fault lies. The reason why you need to basically re-up the CARES Act until further notice is because I don't trust that Trump is ever going to be able to figure out enough to be able to get the cases down.
No.
Like,
the vaccine will come. That is the only thing that's going to stop it at this point is a vaccine.
I mean, I worry. There's more stories coming out too about people getting it again.
Yeah.
And there's more concern that the antibodies kind of live in you for only 4 months. If that, that's sort of like
or that the virus is mutating in a way that the antibodies aren't effective against it.
Or that there's various strains that are reacting differently because there's a lot more young people who are ending up in the hospital in LA. Yep. I mean, they're not dying, which is nice, but they're going to the hospital.
Good.
I love the tweet of oh no, LA did everything wrong and everything went wrong.
Also, I mentioned this to Corey earlier. I see all you non-maskers, and I just want you to understand that if someone that I care about comes down with this virus when we could have stopped this months ago and didn't, as my last gift to them while they're sick and in the hospital and close to death, I'm going to harvest some of those COVID germs into a bottle of water, a spray bottle, and I'm going to fill it with water, and I'm going to go around the city And if I have to come back to Maryland to do this, I will absolutely do this. And this is a threat, so people should take it seriously. If I see you without a mask on, I'm going to spray you directly in the face with my water bottle full of COVID germs. And then you can go on the internet and talk about how there's no COVID, but I'm going to give you COVID because I'm sick and tired of dumb people controlling the conversation. It's ridiculous. Put a goddamn mask on and stay inside.
What's amazing to me is the only place I ever go is to a quick shop to get something and get the fuck out.
Oh yeah. Wait, what shops though? Like gas stations?
Like gas stations and 7-Elevens and stuff like that. Personal items.
Healthcare items.
Yeah,
Healthcare
items. I used to categorize it in Mint under healthcare items. I lost my train of thought there. I go to stores. In and out.
Yeah.
I went to the grocery store for the house not too long ago, and I had my whole list there, and it was just immediately
Fast
like
as
every single place I could go to immediately, and then out.
Yep.
I'm not trying to hang out. I'm trying to keep the mask completely on my face. Not even the pull it down to the chin or anything like that.
Nope.
Keep it on my face from the moment I walk out of the apartment to the moment I walk back in. Unless I'm in the car and the windows are up and I have the air recirculating and stuff like that. I feel like there's a safety in that too, as opposed to being out and about. But I went out to get lunch today, just to pick up lunch. And the amount of people who were either not wearing a mask or wearing a mask incorrectly, which is almost feels as bad as the not wearing the mask.
We have to have the mask on in LA. So a lot of people are putting it on and they're just rocking it on their chin the whole time.
Yeah.
And if anybody says anything to them, they're like, I got my mask.
Sorry.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they're not wearing it. I'm going to spray you in the face with COVID, and then we're going to find out if it's real or not. Anyway, so
stupid fucking people.
Unemployment benefits should be extended. We should lean on people to do this. It's utterly necessary. We're not going to get the plan that we deserve. And the one last thing on this, Corey, I really wish that a presidential candidate would come out with, I don't know, some sort of like fair and square deal, like a new deal that's not a Green New Deal, but just about really addressing real issues. Where is that candidate? It's not Kanye West, because that dude's having a mental health crisis and needs to get some help.
I don't want to talk about Kanye because I don't feel comfortable talking about somebody who is clearly going through something that needs to be addressed, because I don't know how you let him leave the house and do that sort of thing. Like,
because it's the Kardashians and they're like, it's press, so
it's deeply unsettling.
Let's talk about somebody else who's going to run for president in 2024 then. Larry Hogan, governor of Maryland. If you don't know who he is, check out the video. He's sitting right here next to me. And as Corey said in the intro, clearly Larry is going to be running for president in 2024 because he put out, or is going to put out very shortly, a wonderful piece of fiction, which just outlines how great a job he's done.
A beautiful piece of bullshit.
As the governor of Maryland. And Stephanie Rawlings Blake took him to task for what is in his book, and I don't know. Like, listen, the person who did the least good job at her job can call bullshit on your book.
Yeah,
I'm saying that maybe none of it's true. That's basically where I'm at with that.
I mean, if I'm making a power rankings of the people who are most responsible for where we are, like, for who caused the most damage during Freddie Gray,
yes,
SRB's way up at the top. And, the problem is there's a lot of other people who are directly involved who are way up there, too. Like Anthony Batts is way up there. And other people who are up at the high ends of police control and stuff like that. And certainly, oh, God, who was the council president? Oh, Pugh. Well, Pugh was causing trouble. Yeah.
Yes.
She wasn't council president. She was state senator at the time, though, I think.
And then she was on the council, though, wasn't she? She went from the state senate to the council. Not the president, just on the council.
She wasn't president. I can't remember who was president at the time.
Jack Young?
No. Oh, it's killing me. Anywho.
Sheila Dixon?
Nah. She wasn't allowed to run yet.
Oh, that's right. She just ran for mayor. That's right.
I'm kind of blown away that Stephanie Rawlings Blake feels like she needs to butt into this thing at all, because she is the worst of. How about this? First one between Larry Hogan or Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who wants to tell me the other one who shut down Mondawmin Mall and caused the Baltimore uprisings to basically burgeon. The two of you both can't possibly have both done it at the same time. Or maybe you did. But if Rawlings Blake knows that Hogan shut down Mondawmin, then
let's hear it.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to know that information.
Yep.
If Hogan knows for a fact that Stephanie Rawlings Blake shut down Mondawmin and kept everyone caged in the small little area with a violent police force, then maybe he should talk about that in said book. Other than that, everything else that all the things that he talks about in this thing is the fanciful fairy tailing nonsense of this white knight Republican that doesn't exist. Because I like Hogan, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, yes.
I think that he definitely gets it wrong sometimes, and he has a hard time admitting when he gets it wrong.
Yes. A lot of times. But yeah, sure, yeah.
And I think the problem is that there's a like kind of dad figure in Larry Hogan.
Yeah.
Where you feel like he might not always get it right, but he's coming from the right place when he tries to figure it out. You know, like
an example occurs to me. Reno 911. Dangle is about to test a new vest.
Yeah.
And he looks at Travis and he's like, how's your shooting? Are you able to do this? And he's got a nice tight grouping of 9 shots.
Yeah.
And then Dangle walks over and he goes, what about this little guy? And it's up off the shoulder of the model. And he's like, oh, don't worry about that little guy. That little guy is nothing. That's Larry Hogan.
Yeah.
Usually on point. Like rolling back the Bay Bridge toll and, investing money in the right things. And like, we're going to stay inside and shut stuff down. And then Mondawmin Mall is this little guy up here. Or, moving schools to the other side of Labor Day.
Yeah.
Why? Because we want them to stay all summer. That's why. That's why.
It's a lot of. I mean, the problem here is that I would not have thought about how Larry Hogan, the thought process of Larry Hogan, unless he released a book.
Yes.
Which probably would be better for Larry Hogan because there's things in the book like where he's talking about Freddie Gray, right? And he's just like, keep in mind, this guy's no choir singer. And I'm just like, okay. And it's just like, he's some Crip-related, multiple drug offender, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, now you just sound like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because, like, number one, gangs in Baltimore are like clothing designers you wear. Like, you're not really a Crip or a Blood or if you're in the prison, you're absolutely 100% in the Black Gorilla family.
Yes, yes.
And when you're out, you're still a member of the Black Gorilla family. But
I'm
it's
trying
a
to
prison
get laid.
gang.
I'm trying to get laid while I'm in prison. There's only one way that's happening. I got to join the BGF. That's how it works.
There's I was BGF in prison, but now I'm back out. And it's more about the neighborhoods than it is about the gangs. There's not a whole lot of gang things. So anytime anyone in Baltimore ever talks about gangs, it's like when Anthony Batts came in.
Yeah.
He's comes from California. He's just like, we got to get the gang problem under control. And I'm just like, what do you mean by this? Like,
yeah.
Anywho, the idea that Hogan is trying to like put his rationale on the page makes it less interesting to me. I know why you do it. You release a book before you run for president.
Yes.
That way you can sell the book while you're running for president and make some money in case you can't be president.
Right. Yeah.
It's a good
if you're out
it's
by
a good
Iowa,
formula for making some money before you become president.
Amazon don't close after Iowa. You know what I mean? So you're good.
And it just makes me realize that like he doesn't give a shit. Like, and that's the real problem is that like it's all formulaic and it's all, the person who wrote Stephanie Rawlings Blake op-ed for her did a very good job of pointing out some things like, yes, he has increased spending on schools, but only by the exact amount that he was required to do so by the legislature and stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's a lot you can poke at Larry Hogan. At the end of the day, what I always kind of liked about him I'm turning on the TV, there's some big news story and Larry Hogan's going to talk about it, and I hope that he doesn't screw up here.
Yeah.
Is that usually it would come from some sort of reasoned approach, like, oh, I've thought about this, and I think that the most prudent thing to do is start schools after labor, or whatever. Like you would say,
arguably opening up in COVID was because all of the medical people in his staff were saying, we flattened the curve.
Yeah.
We're good. We can reopen. And now he's ignoring them because he likes that the economy is back open and they probably should re-shut. But I guarantee you that they'll do that before Gavin Newsom will.
I'm honestly worried that in Maryland that the cases have just been rampant and nobody fucking knows.
I mean,
there's just not testing mechanism for it.
On the shore, I can tell you they're not testing very much at all. So
I mean, I just see so many people back home in Maryland who are completely without masks, who are doing all the things that is illegal elsewhere, and not I get that different parts of the country are going to be different here, but it seems like nobody's paying attention to what's happening elsewhere. The people in Florida were having fun and frolicking on the beach up until the moment where they weren't anymore.
Yeah, so and now they're very serious. All right, masks are on. We gotta.
I just feel like as soon as I learned that that this might possibly be something that is in California, then I started wearing the mask.
Yep.
I started protecting myself in ways. I started washing my hands more. All the things that are asked of you.
I have a friend from Hofstra.
Yeah.
Who still follow on Instagram. I think that she still follows me too. But I doubt she's listening to podcasts. But nonetheless, decided to go to Ocean City, Maryland. Why?
Because it's open?
Because the Jersey beaches are closed and there's nowhere to go in New York. So she basically just went down the eastern seaboard and was like, oh, Ocean City's open. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm following while she's on vacation. And it's just like, you're not wearing a mask and no one's wearing a mask. Okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was one Instagram story, making fun of a couple of people who are walking on the boardwalk with masks on. Just it's like they think it's a serious thing. And I'm like, she's not a crazy person.
Yeah.
She literally just sees no one's wearing it and assumes it's not a problem in Maryland. And Maryland's reporting it's not a problem.
Yeah.
But it is most definitely a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I feel like it's only a matter if you're going well right now, it's not necessarily because you've done something right. It's just a matter of time. And I trust no state better than Maryland because you have Johns Hopkins, you have all these incredible healthcare and medical facilities in Maryland which are fully capable of helping the state get through this. But it's really tough to think that nothing is happening, right? There's just the virus just isn't in Maryland for whatever reason.
Because it did such a good job. Yeah.
Clearly.
Most important thing, Corey, is not about whether there's cases. It's that Ocean City is open for
There's
Memorial
39
Day.
states that are having rising case counts, yet somehow Maryland is just avoiding all this stuff. And all the nurses and medical people that I follow who live in Maryland are just partying fancy free.
Yeah. If there was one bar,
there was a video too I saw in Nashville where someone was just driving down the main
outside
strip.
the bar.
Yeah, where it's all tourists. It's a tourist area of town, but people just coming into town because there's no mask. There's Nashville's open. You can go to the bars and party. So people are making trips to Nashville. You know what that means? It means that a lot of people with the virus are coming and congregating with other people who have the virus. Some of which will stay in Nashville, and some of which will spread back across the country wherever these people came from. So one person in Maryland who went to Nashville this weekend because they thought it'd be fun are going to take it back and get a whole bunch of people fucking sick.
If I had to ask you what one bar you are sure is open in Ocean City, what would that one bar be?
Secrets?
Secrets. And this same person posted a picture.
Was I right?
Yes, absolutely. This one person posted a picture from Secrets, several pictures from Secrets. In one of the pictures, no one's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And there's no social distancing out in the bay where you can sit in the bay itself. And the caption made commentary about how they were making friends with people from all over the country who had come because Ocean City's open. And I'm just imagining any one of these 12 people that you're sitting with amongst these tables is sick and an asymptomatic spreader. Now, you are all taking it back to New York, to South Carolina, to Ohio, to Pennsylvania, wherever you're from. All of you are going to take it back.
Yeah.
And now you're going to become your super spreaders because you had to go to Ocean City to see this.
You want to know how poorly we've been handling this? Go take a look at where your U.S. passport will allow you to fly.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. It's about 3 countries. It's about Mexico. It's Nigeria. And I think that's it. It's pretty.
And Mexico's touch and go. You might get in and not get back. You might not get in.
They shut it down for the holiday weekend.
Yeah.
I know that because they were worried that so many people who were sick in Arizona were just going to come down to the Mexico beaches. And they closed it up for American citizens at that point. I know that. But
we're so dumb. We just deserve all of this. Is just evolution and adaptation is working. The planet is continually trying to kill us, and we are just allowing it to happen.
So one last thing before we go. I just
lightning round this. What do you got?
Yeah. Do you want to play the drop or not?
No. Let's just go to the story.
Sports ball.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Washington Professional Football Club has found itself in more trouble, and believe it or not, it is not in relation to the name. The news broke here recently that 15 different women talking to the Washington Post were detailing truly horrible sexual harassment and sexual assault by various members of the Redskins organization, including people who are within the inner circle of Dan Snyder, the owner. And upon the larger exploration of the piece is the idea that Snyder allows for a very dysfunctional workplace that allows for this type of thing to strive or to grow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the thing that, I feel like if you said 15 women at the Washington Redskins have come forward with stories of sexual harassment of some sort of way or shape, you would get a lot of female sports writers who cover the NFL to say, only 15? And I think that we might be on the cusp of the NFL's Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Because this has not traditionally been a place where women are treated with respect and kindness, and where a lot of reporters have talked about how it's a good old boy game, and sometimes you have to let things go to be considered part of the good old boys club. Yeah. And you have to turn an eye to things that you normally wouldn't do. And I'm 100% fully in the position of, let's clear this shit out right now. Let's get rid of this. Because some of the things from the Redskin piece in particular are fucking incredible to me. I was talking before the show. Yeah. I don't consider myself perfect, but anytime I've ever thought about having a romantic interaction with a woman, I have always thought in my mind, how is this going to be read? Yes. How do we, if this goes wrong, is it this was a simple misunderstanding, I'm so sorry, or is this a larger deal?
Now, when you were working at Andy Nelson's, yeah, what are the odds you would make an inappropriate advance or comment to someone who worked directly for you in that business?
Very low.
Yeah.
Like 0%.
Someone who you especially didn't have a relationship with outside of work, as in being friends outside of the office.
I mean, I feel like there's different levels of this. To what are you considering? Because, I think that there is there is something that happens at every workplace, male and female, where a bunch of the guys are all by themselves, and it's just like, oh, Brittany's really hot, or whatever.
And that's different. No.
And that's different. And I feel like there's the same thing that's happening with a bunch of female
coworkers
imagine. Getting together and having a similar conversation.
For instance,
what bothers me is so there was one text that they had, and I can't find it right now. God, yeah. It kills me, but I'll put it in the show notes. I'll find it. I'll put it in the show notes. But it was like, can you pick up, some girl saying can you pick up Chipotle for me while you're out? And the male employee of the Redskins going I get to touch that butt if I do. It's just where would you think that would be a possible, it's the old stand-up who had the joke about I was walking down the street in this really tight outfit, and your father, who worked as a construction foreman, just yelled the most disgusting thing at me, and anyway we got married. And where in the world do you think that you
gonna work.
That's gonna work, and she's gonna go yeah, you can touch that butt.
I've been waiting for this.
Been waiting for you to bring it to me on a text message like this.
I'm about to hire a new receptionist, front desk person, facilities administrator, and there are male candidates, there are female candidates. We're bringing in the best that we can. One person speaks 7 languages, and I'm like, that's great. But then there's somebody who's got 15 years experience working at a front desk, and I'm like, oh, sorry. So 2 different skill sets, both are very good, and we have to do an interview. Yeah. But no matter how that works out, dating this person is not on the table. They report directly to me, and if I make an advance, there is a better than there is a 95% chance that any acceptance of that is about, I don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say yes to the date. And even if you're inside, if I'm looking inside my company, it's still just like, at what point is it this person has some authority over me and I don't want it to be a bad situation?
I was in this situation in a way because I was dating somebody I was working with at Nelson's.
Yeah.
And, normally I would say that I wouldn't want to be dating somebody who's lower on the food chain than me.
Right.
And thankfully we were both managers. So we were like equal in there was no way for me to have undue influence per se on like what she was doing, and there was no way for it to go the other way.
That's like every business.
Yeah,
you can date at your level,
yeah,
but not even someone else's subordinate, because there's a image that like, well, I don't work for him.
Well, I'm also saying you're not allowed. If the two of you have some moment, and it's just like, oh my god, I love you, I want to get married.
Oh, sure, right.
I'm just gonna quit this job so we can continue seeing each other. That would be, I feel like, the best way of getting through that.
By the way, also a horrible decision.
Well, yeah, but don't do that.
that.
Don't do that. But I'm just saying, at the very least, if you're so moral about it that you're willing to quit your job to stand on this horse, then
I mean, that's the morning show. Yeah. One of the kind of the B story plots is about this Officer Mance, and it's just like, listen, I'll quit the job. I don't care about the job. Like, yes, we were at work, and that's where we found each other, and we became friends there. And outside of work, the friendship blossomed into something else. Okay, I'll quit the job. I don't care about the job. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that's like, all right, well, so it's not about the power relationship inside. It's that, it just happened the way that it happened.
Going back to this, though, I think that part of the reason why I say 15 sounds low to me is unless there's only been 15 women who've worked for the Redskins, which seems low because I feel like they've had at least 15 cheerleaders on their team.
But the cheerleaders they're not in the org. They're in the like booster side, right?
To me, if there was anything that really got illuminated to me during the burgeoning of Me Too, like as it became a thing, it was that I have no idea how many women have reported some sort of sexual harassment. Like I could have, if you would have asked me to fathom a guess at what percentage of women have felt uncomfortable in some sort of sexual harassment situation at the office, I would have, been like, I don't know, 50 maybe, but the number is so much higher.
We look like the guy on Price is Right, where it's like $7.50, $8.50, $1. Like, not even in the realm of possibility. Yeah. Like, okay,
just
not even
trying to cover everything in between. But guess what? It's higher than
they even think it is. Yeah.
But I'm almost sure that there's a myriad of women throughout the history of the Redskins organization who will say that they've had the same, if not worse, kind of treatment. Different people who are sort of directly mentioned in the story have stepped down and moved away. I think there's like 4 people who've resigned in some sort of way. No real comments from them or the Redskins about like what's going on here.
Well, we discussed how this is not likely to be. This is focused not because of a burgeoning Me Too in the NFL, but it's focused on Dan Snyder and like his running the organization. And I guarantee you that there is at least one person who left the Redskins because of whatever happened that Snyder didn't address. And then it was like, well, then I went to the Eagles and it was bad there too. And now that's when it breaks out. And it's like, no matter what team you're on, it's the same everywhere.
Well, I mean, like where I imagine this started, and I don't know anything. I'm just sort of like freelancing on how this thing usually starts. Is there was probably some minority owner or some higher up who was not in the direct ownership group of the Redskins who said, Dan Snyder's fucking us by not changing the name. So I'm going to get the ball rolling on something that'll get rid of Snyder if we need to. And then Snyder drags his feet on wanting to change the name of the team. And then finally they make the decision, but it's too late because the ball's already rolling down the hill. Yep. And there's no way to stop. Because there was a solid 3 days before the post went up on the Washington Post where people in DC sports media were going like, man, something real big is about to happen.
Yep.
I know what's happening, but the Washington Post is going to break something big on Thursday. And you're just like, well, how do you all know what it's going on and you're not saying anything about it? And it's like, because they're all working on stories on the same vein. And, the Post has the exclusive with someone who's willing to go on the record. And
they reached out to somebody who said, I can't talk to you because I'm talking to the Post. I'm
15,
like, oh, all right.
15 women, 14 of them anonymous.
Yes.
And, vetted by the Post. I'm sure I'm not,
Right.
I'm not
Anonymous
doubting
to
their...
us, not to the Post.
Anonymous to the people who are reading the article, which is us. But
and again, all it's going to take is for someone to say, I worked for the Redskins. It happened there. I left because this happened, and I went to another team, and it continued to happen there. And then
the
now
Pandora's
ball
box of trying to get Daniel Snyder out of his job is going to lead to the continuation of every single organization in the NFL having to speak to what kind of sexual harassment is going on behind their walls.
Much like Larry Hogan, I don't care how it starts. It's something good that can happen. So, okay, on with it. Good.
I'd rather clear out of the worst that the NFL has to offer. And judging from the text messages that were released, there's some pretty bad ones that can be let go.
Yes.
So that is that for sure. But if you want to know where you can go see some real upstanding guys who are never going to cause some sort of problems like the Redskins.
Don't speak. Don't do it to yourself. How about where could you find more psychic predictions years ahead of time where they would pan out?
Where else can you shake your magic 8-ball? OhTheAnthem.com. Corey at OhTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I did not get a review out today, but there is one for what was it? What did I just see? Huh?
Old Guard?
What is it?
Old Guard?
No, I didn't do Old Guard yet. I guess I could. I don't know.
Oh no. Damn, the documentary Sports Kid or
Showbiz Kids.
Showbiz Kids.
Yeah, that's worth seeing. And I talk about what it's like to work with kids on set in that video. I'm trying to push more towards a filmmaker's perspective on these movie reviews. So I was thinking about doing one on Eurovision, but I didn't want to be like, it's a shame when everything seems like it works out and then it just doesn't. Like that's not a fun review, so I didn't do it. But
they don't always have to be winners.
I know. I
got some stinkers in there. It's like I did not like this movie.
Well, I mean, like I think the problem with this one is that like it's like you can see the best intentions of everyone going in. But like in some movies, it just for whatever reason it just doesn't work. It just does.
The Lighthouse,
like the magic isn't there.
The Lighthouse, I saw it. I understand.
Anyway, new video this week though for sure.
All right, and of course you can find more of me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com where you can find links to the blog, the news website, the books that are available on Amazon.
Buy our books.
Thank you. Including all of the video catalog is now going up on from the reviews. I am doing a short series on the last two videos up were Quibi, the Plaza platform, and I'm going to do a couple of series from Quibi that I enjoyed. Up today, most recently, is Most Dangerous Game, the show that actually brought me to Quibi, the one that said, hey, this might be worth checking out the whole platform. So yeah, you're going to find those on the at youtube.com/RobCheek. So,
well, that sounds wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the Oh, the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh, the Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Apologize in advance for my impossible curls.
Yeah, that's not the only thing you have to apologize this week. Just wait a few years.
Backlash.